Following on, we are with the main man, Monty Spindler. This is a big deal for me because you've been in the game a long time.
Long time. Yeah.
Maybe just give, because there'll be some younger guys listening, younger girls, new to the sport. Won't know who you are, because you are behind the scenes. You're obviously sail designer for Loft now, but give them a little brief history.
Well, I did compete in some World Cups.
Okay.
Would you believe I beat Axel Ohm in the waves in Omezaki?
See, there you go. How much money was it back then? Ching ching.
Yeah, and I raced in Cape Don, one of the World Cups that was in Holland back in the late 80s, I think it was. And I had some good finishes, actually. I was in the top 10 one windy day on the Raceboards with fairly small sails. But the competitive side, I always wanted to do that. I was speed sailing as well. There was a moment in the 80s when I was with Pride, when I was actually 4th on the speed list worldwide. Yeah, that was interesting too, because there was Ciré, and I learned a lot from watching him run the course, and I looked for a soft mast instead of a stiff mast. The Pride team had all these carbon masts from Japan, and I found a Sea Panther mast, which was super soft, put it in my Pride sail, was running the course at the Pride Week. That's how I arrived at being 4th on the world list. And my average time was actually faster than Fred.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
Fred Haywood, obviously. Yeah.
But that's old news. My work is the sail design, and I wanted to compete, but I had to dedicate myself to the design work.
But the thing is, when I speak to, I don't want to call you an old boy, but I'm an old boy, so you're definitely an old boy.
Yeah.
But design, like looking at, like you say, changing mass.
Yeah.
Everything was progressing so quick back then. I speak to all the old Aussies. The guys that were doing well knew what was going on with the equipment. You had to be able to do it yourself, because to get changes to happen, adjusting sails, changing mass.
Well, hey, back then you could, compared to what things are now, things were kind of primal, let's say, because back when I started designing for Pride, it was in '82. There was no IMCS. Nevin came with that when he joined Fiberspar.
And that's the stiffness rating of mass and how to...
Yeah, IMCS is index mass check system, where there's a calibration for how stiff the mast is, and that didn't even exist when I got into the game. I was doing the OEM work for Neil, which is I was designing for Windsurf, for Tiga, Highfly, all those brands, and I was his production grunt. And we didn't have a system to measure the mast back then. We'd receive a mast. Neil would go and visit the European accounts with drawings that I did, and they would look at a panel layout that they thought they liked, and then I had to adapt that to whatever mast arrived, and we'd rig and then understand that the luff curve was completely wrong and adjust, and that's...
God, you can't even, like nowadays... you tell that to someone, my God, how did you even go there? But that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah,
hard work.
Yeah, well, and that's, I mean, maybe leads in a bit to the birth of ART when I left Pride, the cutaway thing.
Yeah.
It was only when I was leaving Pride, even after that, I think, that the IMCS arrived.
So you were first working for, you said quite a few brands then, and then you went to work for ART solely.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly. And what I'm getting at is back then the masts tend to be hardtop.
Yeah.
And all the designers, I was just talking to Willie about it, everybody was designing with quite generous seam shaping up top, combined with a stiff mast, and we were all sailing around with these closed leeches.
Yeah.
And when I saw Ciré sailing with this high aspect ratio ITV sail that opened at the top, it was an eye-opener for me. He was consistently 2 knots faster than Fred at that event. Then I saw Barry did a speed sail for Fred that was a normal leech down to the batten above the boom and then extended out to the boom, which was in a way a cutaway. And I thought, well, let's just move the corner up where it can free the leech. And that's how the Radwing was born, the cutaway from ART.
That was the one with the big...
Yeah, the corner. Yeah, lots of jokes about it. Like I have a pillar in the middle of my layout floor,
And come around it.
So it was, interesting times. But the fact is that funny corner, it did free the leech up top, and that improved performance. So it was bad because all the other designers were saying, "What the hell are you doing with this corner?" You know, because everything was normal, and then comes this corner. Just imagine, just putting a corner in made this huge controversy.
What year was that? Just to give people.
That was ART was launched in '86.
Yeah, because I remember the corner.
Or no, 80.
It's like,
I think it was '87 launched.
Okay.
'86 is when I was busy designing stuff, and it was launched in '87.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the free leech, it's now standard.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's mad how all that stuff, and you've been through all of that, and obviously, so ART, after ART?
My brand was born in 1999, and it's been running, 24 years now.
Okay.
I was 4 years with Pride, over 10 years with ART, and now the longevity moment is my own brand.
Okay, and you're based now in Tarifa?
Based in Tarifa. I've been there close to 30 years now. Yeah.
And that is a spot to be. I mean, every windsurfer out there has heard of Tarifa. I actually live 5 hours away, but it is windy.
It's
you got everything, really.
Yeah, you do. And I went there for the wind, I love the strong Levante. But now, I'm pushing year and a half. I'll be 70. So now I'm into the lighter winds and foiling. Because I can't take the boom, boom, boom anymore, you know, on the slalom board. Yeah, and it's a perfect place for R&D. It's not really known for waves, but we do get good waves in the winter sometimes. And it's perfect for R&D because you really do get everything there.
Okay, right, we're going to talk about Loft Sails.
Yeah.
I know you haven't got your Raceboard sail here, but being a keen ex-raceboarder, was speaking to Patrice before about the Windsurfer LT, you have literally cornered the market in Raceboard sails, from what I can see.
Yeah, well, I've been very fortunate there because the strongest guys in the Raceboard class, somehow we got connected. Okay. So when you work with guys who are on top of their game, it helps open the doors, and that's what's happened. Joao Rodriguez, Kuro Manchon, and Patrick Pollock, between them they have multiple world and European championships. And a lot of that was done with my stuff over the last, 4 or 5 years. We've been killing it in the Raceboard class. A lot of people don't know that there is a revival of the Raceboard class, and it's becoming more popular in Europe. I'd like to see it everywhere. Interesting because Raceboard is where you get the strong yacht influence. You have the upwind leg where you're tacking and it's tactical. The board is in the water with the centerboard down, mast track forward, so you're in displacement mode and you don't lose much in tacking, so it's very, very tactical. Then you get to the weather mark, kick up the centerboard, pull the mast track back, and then you're on a strange slalom board with a very long nose, And it's a lot of fun. That's where actually I came from in the World Cups I did. The good results I had were on Raceboard, and I might also interject that Ken, he was so strong in the Raceboard, Ken Winner. There was Craig Strutzel making his boards from Annapolis. Ken is from Annapolis, and I was doing Ken's sails. I'm from Annapolis, so we had this sort of East Coast thing going on for a while that was really strong.
Sick. I mean, it's quite funny because you mentioned all those raceboarding names. They're the guys that I was sailing with back in my Raceboard days.
And Guy Cribb as well.
Yeah, Guy Cribb. I mean,
I worked with him quite a while at ART. He was very helpful in developing the ART Raceboard sails.
I mean, Guy, when I was coming up through the Raceboard, he was winning events in the national stuff and obviously doing well internationally as well. But his long hair down to his, it's come back. If you haven't seen Guy Cribb recently, the hair has come back. So Cribby's still around and still motivated as ever, which is cool to see. Right, let's talk about range that you've got here.
Okay, well, the Oxygen, when I started ART, when I started Loft Sails, the Oxygen was named the O2, and I started actually with just 2 sail lines. There was the O2 Slalom, and there was the Lip Wave, which was the wave sails. And so they didn't really overlap much. So there was kind of one line. That was in 2000. And when I started, I had the design experience, but I didn't have the commercial experience. But somehow it worked out. I found guys who wanted to sell the stuff in the USA and also some in Europe, and it grew, and I had a very simple commercial formula, but it didn't seem to get in the way.
Yeah, yes.
And yeah, this is an evolution. It used to be called the O2. Now it's the Oxygen, and it has evolved, but it's been the pillar of my brand in test results in magazines.
So give me this a category. Can you?
This is the fastest design I can do without having cams.
Okay, so it's like the free race, no cam.
It's a slalom design. It's a slalom design that's quick, responsive, but it's just easy because there's no cams.
Okay. I'm asking this question everywhere because I've just made a video at home about it, and I've been sailing a lot on a no cam sail and a twin cam. And I'm then going on a race sail, I'm thinking, you know what, I'm having more fun, you know, for me personally, on the no cam, on the twin cam, because it's lighter.
Yeah.
Should there be a category for this style of racing where you don't need
the cams?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there.
Well,
it's an interesting thing.
Like I say, I worked on this design so much at the beginning of my brand, and it was super successful. When it was first launched as the O2, it was consistently killing it in the magazine tests, and that was a large part of the growth of my brand in the beginning.
Interesting.
But to talk about it, well, it's what to say. The smaller sizes are 6 batten, the larger size is 7. It's got the clue cut out. We move the eyelet up.
I was looking at this, so this is interesting because I've not seen this.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I personally haven't seen it on any other sail brand.
No. Everybody's got the cross batten.
Yes.
And everybody has pretty much 2 eyelets that are there for the boom. And everyone is arguing that, or announcing that the upper eyelet is appropriate for light winds and the lower one is for strong winds. So it does make an impact because you use the upper eyelet, you're reducing the leech length, you're increasing the foot length, you're adding shape. It's suitable for lighter winds. And then you make it slippery by moving the boom down to the lower eyelet. That allows the lower leech to lay off more. The effect is the same when you move the upper eyelet to above the cross batten, but the difference between the 2 positions is reinforced. It's a bigger change.
Because you haven't got the batten.
If you use both eyelets below the cross batten, both eyelets are still laying off.
Yeah.
Both eyelets are laying off. Move the eyelet above the cross batten, and then the cross batten itself becomes a cylinder, and that punches the low end. And it's very effective. In fact, Arnaud Deschamps from the Planche Mag test chief, he was here talking about it, and he told me he was blown away at how powerful it gets.
Interesting.
But we recommend you to use the lower eyelet. That's where in the upper end and medium winds, even lower medium winds, the sail's more comfortable with the lower eyelet. But if you're struggling to get planing and you need the power reinforced, move that up there, and then the lower part of the sail becomes this 4x4 cylinder, and it really makes a difference.
Interesting. That's super interesting. Like I said, I've not seen that on other brands, and I know you have done some interesting stuff, which I'm going to talk about something I saw on a Patrick sail yesterday, which I want to ask you about anyway. Okay. Next up?
We have 2 wave sails in our line, quite simple. We've got the Wavescape, which is a 4-batten sideshore, which is designed quite a bit flatter. It's Dacron Luff. And we have the Pure Lip, which is a 5-batten down to the smaller 2 sizes. It's more of a bump and jump sort of thing. The strong point of both designs is how they handle in the upper end. And I'm just understanding now that there's a secret about that Arnaud didn't know about it, and even my commercial partner didn't realize. Something that I put into my marketing shtick for years is it's called a standing batten. Now, I'm sure you don't know what that is.
No, I don't.
Well, it's quite simple. Wave sails, they have to go in the waves, right? And when they go in the waves, sometimes you have tons of power in the waves to break everything. So wave sails don't have tubes. But that doesn't mean they don't benefit from having stiffer battens. So in addition to the round 8.5 diameter rod, we have a rectangular rod that's 10 millimeters on one measurement and 8 on the other. So this rectangular rod, I call it standing because we give this rod a taper that forces that it's tapered in its longer dimension.
Yeah.
So what happens here is the forward end of the taper is tucked into this double seamed because when you flex this batten, it wants to naturally turn to flex in its 8.
Okay.
Right? And it's much stiffer if you force it to remain in its resisting the bend in the 10 millimeter orientation. Yes. So we do that. We taper it in its 10 millimeter standing orientation, but it doesn't allow it. It can't turn to its softer because it's kept captive here. And so if you compare this batten to a glass tube, it's actually slightly stiffer.
Okay.
And the cool thing is it doesn't break in the whitewater.
I was going to ask you, how is it in the waves?
The standing batten is like tubes for wave sails.
Okay.
And it's effective. You can see that in our tests.
And the benefit, you're saying that's the strong winds.
It doesn't allow the shape to move back. If you use a normal 8.5 diameter rod, which is what the industry standard for wave sails, and you're at the upper end, the shape can move back quite easily in the upper end. And if I can say that there's a character consistent in my wave designs, it's how they handle in the upper end. Part of that is because of where I live.
I was about to say, lives in Tarifa.
But a large part of that is, and I've talked about this in marketing terms in online and the website and so on for what, I don't know, it's been 10 years I've been doing this, but I don't see it in any other sails. And this makes a big difference on how the sail handles in the upper end. Just that.
That's interesting. Interesting. Good.
Another thing to say is I'm not a fan of monofilm. So our sails are really built to last. And there's a lot of features that I won't really go into now, but I put a lot of effort into making them last. Longevity is super important for me because when people spend so much money on a sail, I think it's really important that the sail lasts for them for many, many seasons. And some of our early designs, the O2, the lip wave from way back when, there's people here that tell me I'm still using the sail from 2003, 2004. You know, part of that is because back then everyone was using 5 mil laminates, and now we're down to 2 mil laminates. You know, so
I mean everything is pushing lighter. You're seeing in other industries like phone industry, they last a year, then they want to buy a new one. But in my experience, when something lasts a long time, I'll go back to that same brand. You know?
That's important.
I mean, we've seen that with the Ezzy 10-year sale. I remember stuff like that. People remember this stuff. So when you buy a Loft, if it lasts a long time, you're going to be like, that was a good servant.
I did dabble in going minimal and light in 2000. I went to some monofilm constructions and lightened things up. But as soon as I did that, I regretted it. And we've gone back to full X-ply everywhere. We do have some models that have monofilm in windows. It's kind of an obligation in some situations, but the majority of our sails are monofilm free. I think that's really important. Don't be fooled too, because some brands use monofilm and they paint it. So it looks like biply. You know what biply is?
No, I'll be honest.
Let's go to this way. This is biply.
Okay.
And it's not monofilm.
Oh, really?
It's actually the same as this, but it doesn't have the threads.
Okay.
So what makes it colored is the glue. The glue gets the colorant.
So that is stuck together.
That is stuck together.
But without the...
Right. And why is that important? Because when you do a laminate, you stick it together, the UV resistance doubles.
Okay, interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's how you color monofilm?
Yeah.
Okay. So
well, you don't color monofilm.
Okay.
You make biply.
Okay. Oh, there we go. We're learning something today.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the Switchblade model, it's also been a kind of, you might say, a staple. It's been very successful for kids and ladies racing, 3-cam. Again, I don't put any laminates into the mast pocket. It's all woven, which extends its life. People who rig, sometimes they can actually damage the sail trying to get the cams in place when there's the thinner laminates, you know.
So this is kind of a lightweight race sail, basically. The 3-cam.
Yeah, 3-cam. It doesn't have the wide mast pocket. That could be the big difference when you have a big water tank and you're trying to pull it out of the water.
So for the lighter rides, like you say, ladies, kids, stuff like that, with racing performance.
Yes, and then Skyblade is, I worked hard on the foil race design. What to say about it? I wanted to mention something about battens again.
Yeah.
Something that a lot of guys don't know. You could call it almost a secret. So what I want to say is, all battens are resins and fibers, and when the sail is completed and the battens are in, the sail is rolled up. Normally on starboard tack, you get a new sail, you unroll it, and starboard is looking up. And when it's in the sail bag all that time, with the seam shapes that are in, all the battens are on starboard tack in the bag, right? So because they're fibers and resins, and they sometimes get quite hot in transport and in the car and where they're stored, all the battens will take on a bend. Yeah, maybe the upper ones not so much because it's flatter up there, but the lower ones where all the profile is, they can be quite radically bended in the bag. Then when you rig the sail, it rigs, and then when you come to the point where you want to rotate your new sail, it can really resist because all the battens have been on starboard tack for who knows how long. And the first time you try to force it onto port tack, they resist. And you think, my God, this sail rotates so hard. What's that? And then when you go back to starboard tack, it goes so easily. And then you think, how can it be it resists going onto port, but it so nicely goes onto starboard? That's because of this history of being in the sail bag. Yeah.
Obviously, starboard tack, port tack is obviously left hand at the front, port tack, right hand at the front, starboard tack. So each side of the sail. Because there's obviously a few people watching who probably not got that racing background.
Right.
But,
And that's not only true of Loft Sails, but all the brands, all the battens, they're all fibers, they're resins, and they just like masts. If you leave a sail rigged for a few weeks, they do. You take it out and it's got this bend in it. So the battens are no different.
Okay. Yeah. So after a while, they then sort of equalize.
And how do you minimize that problem? You can alternate sides that you roll it up. That'll help. And also, once it's rigged,
is that something you recommend? Interesting.
I know that that's the case, and I just don't worry about it. I know that that's part of the package. There's might say
something weird about rolling up a sail the wrong way.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
But if it's an issue for you, that's an option. Also, as soon as you get it rigged, if there's going to be some time before you get on the water, you could leave it on port, and that'll help minimize that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the foil sail?
That's the foil sail. Just
so
to say, I put a lot of work into this, and it's a totally new design, quite different from earlier ones.
Are we going to see any pedalway racers? Because that's what they want to know. Are we going to see who's going to be the racers on the Loft Sails? Because is that yours?
Man, I would love to have a team strong on foil racing like we have in Raceboard.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we're working it out, let's say.
Okay, well, watch this space. I think, like I say, I'll have a word with your
Racing Blade. This, what to say about it? It's medium width mast pocket, X-ply everywhere. Probably how many years of development? I don't know. The first blades were used by Valérie Gibadot to win the World Cup. She'd won twice the World Cup with it, and she won the ISA Speed Tour with it.
I'll be honest, I don't know what year it was, when I first started commentating, you boys were absolutely killing it. Ludo Yossin in Vietnam, Ben Van der, that sort. I think it was Anton Kestel.
Yeah.
And you were dominant. It was kind of crazy at that point.
Yeah, that was the good old days in a way, But yeah, what to say? I've worked on the design since then, and it has improved. Back then, because Valerie was so strong, and we didn't actually have a guy in the tour. That's back when I was running the business myself. I did all the commercial work and everything. We didn't have a male rider. I couldn't afford it, actually. And Valerie was killing it so much that there wasn't really a reason to. And so the PWA guys sort of thought of my stuff as Sails for Girls at that time. You know? But that changed when Ben came in, and we started getting results with the men as well.
He's kind of a big girl, isn't he?
But I don't know. I won't go into much more detail about it, just to say that I have a lot of confidence in the design, and it's doing well in the magazine tests. So again, I would love to have a big team, but right at the moment we're trying to work that out as well.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I did speak to York, and he says he's on the lookout. So if you maybe there's people out there, have a look. Monty,
thank you, Ben.
That was a pleasure,
Thank
man.
you. Thank you.
And we want to get him on the podcast. Like, there's a lot of Hall of Famers here.
Yeah.
I mean, so many. And I've had a word with Cliff Webb, who's organising the Hall of Fame for windsurfing. You know, there's some inductees this year. Obviously, Monty's one of them. And we're going to go down that list and try and get these guys on the podcast, because so many interesting stories, so much history. And there's a lot of guys out there who haven't heard it. And there's a lot of guys that want to know when we were growing up. I want to know what was happening in the background, because we never saw it.
To the Windsurfing.TV audience, keep the stoke. Windsurfing, that's where it's at.
I'm there. Right, we're going to have a look at Unifiber next. Stay tuned. If you enjoyed that, we have got lots of episodes that you might have missed, and there's plenty more coming. Stay tuned to the channel.